Well, this is an absolute pleasure. So we've gone back and forth on the phone now for almost a year. Me and Kim, we've been able to get to know each other, and it's an absolute pleasure to introduce Kim and Mark Hilinski, who are the founders of Hilinski's Hope, and more importantly, just two unbelievable people who I honestly admire with all my heart. And we've been able to get to know each other, and the conversations that we've had, it's just beautiful, I think, to see what you are doing, the type of people you are, and the amount of impact that you, your family, and your whole community are having on the mental health world. So before even getting started, I just want to say a huge thank you for doing this, because we have so much in common, and to be able to have these conversations and to be able to spread hope any way we can, for me, it's an honor to do this for John and for Tyler. It means the world to me. So thank you for being here. And I wanted to send you all my love and hope before even getting this started. So thank you both for being here. But yeah, on that note, I would love for you to introduce yourselves as well.
Okay, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Sure. So, gosh, where do we start? We started Hilinski's Hope after Tyler passed January of 2018. And probably a month later or so is, we knew the long question was going to be what happened to Tyler and why it happened. And it was painful to deal with every day, but you can't avoid it. And so, we had to spend our time doing something. And you lose somebody like Tyler, and you want to replace the light he left, or you really want to try to fill up what he would have contributed. And you can't do that, because he was too amazing to kind of fill in that bucket. But we wanted to make sure, you have to go back to really the beginning, but we wanted to make sure that Tyler, because Tyler, who he was, the kind of kid he was, what we knew about him, what his friends said about him, his coaches and his teammates and his brothers, of course. If Tyler could die by suicide, then we really felt like anybody was at risk, because he didn't fit the traditional profile. And not that there really is one, but I mean, he didn't have he wasn't being treated for a mental illness. He didn't have any episodes that would be characterized as having a true sort of diagnosable mental illness at the time. And so to die by suicide without any warning, without any signs, with his friends and his family and his coaches being as in shock as they were when he left, we felt like everybody was a little vulnerable at that point. So we wanted to spend our time focused on that and see, how many Tylers we could help in the world. And, we don't exclude anybody, of course, but the world we know reasonably well, or better than we know other things, is football, and high school football, as we were talking about, and college football now. And so we spent our time trying to figure out how we could do that. And then I'll stop. But at the beginning, we wanted to go out and solve the problem, whatever that was. And we wanted to fix things that we thought were broken. And I think that's natural. You want to go out and save people immediately, and you don't want another Tyler to pass. But what we realized is you can't go do that right away. You can't do the surgery until you do the x-rays, and you can't do that until you take the temperature. And, you sort of have to go right back to the beginning. And what we found at the beginning was stigma, and we found people that were unaware. We found people that don't believe that there's mental illnesses. They just think you got to tough it out and so forth. And so we've been asked before, would you still be doing this if you knew Tyler didn't have a mental illness? And the answer to me, and I don't really care what anybody else thinks, my son didn't take his life because he was bored, because he had a bad day, because he got a ticket, or he lost a football game. He didn't have a choice to take his life, and he didn't give anybody any warnings about it. So that, to me, is all the description of mental illness I need. And then as we went and talked to the schools and the teams and the players, and the professionals in this business in college football, we found this unbelievable hole that people were trying to climb out of and get help, and they were afraid to do it, and they were afraid because they were embarrassed. They were afraid what their families would say, what their coaches would say, losing their scholarships, etc. So we said, okay, well, that's where we'll start. We'll just start by talking about it, because so many people don't want to do that.
And those conversations that you're having are honestly life-changing for people too. Because when you get up there and when you share and when you're so honest, and I love what you said there, because it's like, it didn't fit the mold, right? There almost is no mold, right? It shows that we're all going through something, and there might be another person going through just that same battle, and you going out there and having the courage to speak and having the courage to share and talk to these students is literally, I get chills even listening to you and the calm way that you speak, and how it just makes me want to do more and want to help as much as I can, because that is what people need to know. They need to understand that A, they're not alone, and B, don't be ashamed or embarrassed, especially men who are athletes that are playing football at these big schools, right? They have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and a lot of people don't even understand that outside of their immediate circles.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you Google Division I quarterbacks that have died by suicide, you don't have a list. There's not. I mean, there's certainly guys afterwards that have struggled and publicly struggled and have passed away. But that's what made this our option to not talk about this. It's not, Kim and I aren't that way anyway, but it was too important, because people will listen to this because they don't understand. And not that we do. We don't have answers. We're not coming and preaching to anybody. We lost our son. And that's always going to be hard. It's on your watch, in your all of that is part of what we struggle with every day. But you can't ignore it. I like to talk about Tyler. I want to talk about him all the time, not just brag about him, what a great kid he was and what a super son and all that, or player or games even. None of that. It's just to talk about him. I'm not in denial. I know he's gone. I wish he were here. But we have pictures, all over the house. We talk about him from Hilinski's Hope all the time. And Kim and I, rarely get through an hour without telling a story or something. So if that's helping other people, I think that's terrific.
And I would love actually to hear, and based off of that too, just going into the next point, tell me a little bit about Tyler. I know a bit about him from our conversations, but I would love to learn more. I'd love for our audience to learn a little bit more about this wonderful, incredible young man.
Well, he was the middle of our three boys, and the sweetest. I mean, Kelly and Ryan are wonderful, but Tyler just really had this kind heart, this giving soul, and a bubbly, fun personality. And Mark always says, I love all my sons and I like them most of the time, but I really, really like Tyler. And that's just because it's just fun to be with. And he always made you feel special, always made you feel like he truly cared about you and what was going on, and not just his family, but his friends, his coaches, professors at school. He had a light that I still think is shining. And I think because of who Tyler is really, is the fuel that really is helping Hilinski's Hope keep moving forward. I think people they see him, and I think who he is has helped build Hilinski's Hope. And we're so grateful that it's his personality that is really pushing it forward. I mean, yes, you mentioned courage, but we think it's love that helps us tell Tyler's story. I don't know if we have courage. I just think we are so in love with him, the same way we were when he was with us physically, that keeps us trying to help others.
And I love how you say that too, because it reminds me so much of my best friend John, whose personality is still shining right now. And I love how you talk about that, because right now Tyler is pushing this forward. it's his light, it's his beauty, and the way he lived his life is so inspirational. And I think why the work you're doing, like you said, you hit the nail on the head, is so important, so impactful, because it comes from the heart. It's pure love, and it's him and his energy, being able to unlock other people's potential the same way he did when he was here physically on this earth. And I think that is something that literally changes and saves lives. And I can't be more grateful for that, because I've seen that happen. And I've seen even the conversations you've been hosting, and I've seen so many other people and quarterbacks even in the SEC open up about their own journeys. And your youngest son, Ryan, the way he talks about Tyler and the way he talks about hope is so, it's just beautiful. And that's what the world needs.
Yeah. Oh, especially right now.
Yeah, I was thinking that, this would crush Tyler. He didn't, that you have to really watch what you say, and words are really important in what we do and what you do. And but Tyler would be just lost right now, I think, with what's going on, because it never was part. He grew up playing football. He grew up around all different types of athletes and backgrounds and families, and I think I thought about it a lot this week, as everything were going on, and it's affected Kelly and Ryan dramatically, as well as everybody in the country. We're not unique in that way, but I think in Tyler's case, this would really hurt, and again, this has not more than anybody or less than, but you want to know about Tyler. This is the thing, a lot of us see it, we react to it, we do what we can, we do more than we're supposed to, we don't do enough, there's all that. But I think Tyler's personality was one that this would cripple him a little bit, because he was from that position. He wasn't as angry. You talk about the kids, Kelly and Ryan are both A types. They lead, they talk, they lead with their mouths, they lead by example. But Tyler was really the B type personality. He was the guy that would bring guys together. He would be the first guy in, the last guy out, but he wouldn't tell you that. He didn't need to write it on a wall somewhere or get an award for it. And that sounds like you're bragging about a kid, but really it's just his temperament. He loved all those things. He loved to win. He was the most competitive kid you'll ever meet. But that wasn't the reason. It was for the love of the team and the guys. You hear this a lot in sports, particularly in football, but for sure Tyler's joy in sports first was taking care of the guys and doing what he could, doing his role. And he was a backup quarterback for a while. He was just coming into the opportunity to really run this team at Washington State. And I was looking forward to that for him, because he and I had so many conversations about what can he say? How can he do this? How can he, and they weren't things like, how can I be better? How can I elevate my status? It was, how can I help those guys? And so a lot of our conversations were authentic. You got to just tell them what you're thinking. They'll read. Those are our kids, right? Between 18 and 25, they can smell false in a minute. You can't get away with sort of faking it. And I think that's where Tyler, the people that really knew Tyler and loved Tyler, he was the most authentic guy. He had masks certainly because he's gone, but in his love for other people, there was no bounds. He'd give you not just the shirt off his back, literally out of his bag and out of his room, and pick you up if you needed a ride, let you borrow his car. Not because he was the neat kid that did that stuff. That's just how he was. And so we could go on and on about him, but this is the point, right? He was that kind of kid. It's not parents reinventing a kid after he's gone and brushing over. He was imperfect, right? Period, John. He wasn't, I don't mean it that way, but his intention was always really pure. And that's what, hopefully some of that we're grabbing and pushing back to everybody else through Hilinski's hope.
And that's what makes it so special, is when I hear you describe him and how authentic he was, right? He didn't do things based off of, oh, I have to do this to look good. He just authentically wanted to make people feel good. He authentically wanted to pick them up, and especially see that I can imagine he saw those people that may have been quote unquote underdogs and probably lifted them up and wanted them to be happy because he felt that, and it's interesting because, even though I didn't physically meet him, I can't get over how much it reminds me of John. How much he reminds me of John, and how much their personalities were the same, because John helped me in the same way Tyler helped so many other people, right? Like what he would do is he wouldn't go and tell people that he was driving me around for an hour talking about my OCD and how I could deal with it. He would just do it. And then he'd text me afterwards and check in. And those are the type of people that make this world such an amazing place. And those are those real leaders that people need to listen to, which is why I think what you're doing right now is helping so many people, because you're authentically leading. You're not just doing this to do this. You're doing this out of the goodness of Tyler's heart and out of the goodness of your heart. So when you see that, it's like you said, I love, I'm lucky enough to be able to meet so many amazing people and be able to do this now because of my own journey, right? And the authenticity that you show and that your organization shows and that Tyler shows is what is going to change the world, and is why you are already having such a massive impact in what you're doing right now. And I think it's something that students can really gravitate towards and grab onto, to say, I am enough by being who I am. I don't have to sit here and say anything. I can be myself. I can help my friends. I can look out for my teammates. I can check in. And that's not only going to make me a better leader, but a better person and a better human and a better, advocate for mental wellness.
Yeah. No question.
So true. Yeah. Well, I loved how you said that we're doing this out of the goodness of Tyler's heart. No one's ever said it like that before, and I'm probably going to use that again. Thank you.
I think there was one other point I thought was really good. So if John was the same way, we didn't learn, like, we could sit here forever and tell you stories about Tyler. But some of the stories that reinforced why we're doing this came after he passed, right? So I didn't know that Kim knew a little bit, but not to the degree. Tyler took a teammate to counseling every 2 weeks, drove him there, bought pizza, sat in the car. They talked about the counseling appointment. It was a receiver of his. His mother died of cancer when he was very young. He's still seeing a therapist. Great, right? So that's an important part of Tyler's story, because he knew counseling helped people to some degree. He talked about it. He knew where counselors were. He spent his time with this person that he cared about so much, going back and forth. But those stories about professors that would come in and tell us, I want to tell you the story about Tyler, and everybody has football stories, and we love those. We'll take them. But the other example is we get a call from Professor Levins up at WSU, and he said, paraphrase, but he said, I wanted you to hear this one quick story, and it was Tyler in his forget now, marketing class, sports management class. And he said, Tyler, it was after one of the big games. It might've been the Boise game. Tyler hung out after class and waited for the guys to go. And Levins would say, I think here we go. He's going to ask for a favor or a delay, or he's got practice, or, it's some kind of, like professors do, right? The kids are like, but Tyler, he said he was blown away because Tyler hung out, and at the end he said, how are you doing? Right? We didn't hear this story until Tyler was gone, right? But the professor was trying to explain, he didn't have an agenda. He didn't, and again, this one thing doesn't make him a saint. I'm just giving an example, but this is the example. He cared about what you were doing. If he had enough time to share anything with you, he wanted to know about you. He wanted to know what you were like. He wanted to know what you needed. He wanted to help in some way. And sometimes the way you do that is you just ask, how you doing? So we do that. I mean, obviously, but there's that many stories. So I think, to John's memory and to Tyler, that authentic place doesn't come just from remembering things 15 years ago and putting a pretty spin on them. These are outside people like yourself. Explain. He didn't go around tweeting out, hey, guess what? I'm on my second hour with John. I'm really doing a good job. And that's not even to put guys down that do that. But there is something unique and special about the ones that do it without asking for any credit for it or or acknowledgement.
It's a beautiful thing when you talk about that too, how we always ask how other people are doing.
Right.
You know,
It's
that's
so
just,
simple, right? Yeah.
and it goes so beyond, football and so beyond being an athlete. It's about who the man he is, and I think that's what I feel. I find myself connecting to it so much because we did a podcast about 2 years ago on the 7th anniversary of John's passing, and we did interviews with people about their favorite memory of John, and I couldn't believe what people were saying. And one that stood out to me, and it just reminded me of what you guys were talking about right here, was his little cousin. She's about 23 years old now, and she was just talking about how they would run around at grandma's house, and they play jokes on grandma, but while also taking care of grandma to make sure she didn't get really hurt by what they were doing. And then the way they smiled and the way they laughed about it is he didn't judge people based off of, like, for example, here's something that I think will resonate is he didn't care if the person was, put it this way, if it was the best wide receiver in the world, right, that he was talking to, or if it was just a student from his classroom that's from a small town in Idaho that just wanted to have a conversation about life, right? He put those two people in the same boat and would help them equally. And I think that's what the key to this world is, and why what you're doing is so important, and what Tyler and John were like is so important, is to keep that kind of legacy alive of saying, hey, we're going to help you. We're here for you beyond the football field. We're here for you beyond the classroom. We're here for you as humans, right? And that authenticity is what pushes this movement forward, and is what I think is going to really resonate with students, right?
Well, I think the unique part about that, just to add on, is it's not enough to just ask. It's not enough to go. I think it's important to start there. Everybody can learn, and so, but the ones like John and Tyler had this ability to ask in a way that the person they were asking understood. You know what I mean? So it wasn't, we can all go, hey, John, how you doing? And I hope you mean that, you get that I mean the question I want to know. Tyler, John, others like that had this unique trait, ability to communicate. And I don't think, by the way, there's no way it's taught. Yeah. It's just, he could impress upon you that when he asked you how you were, he truly wanted to know and could get you to open up. And I think that's why so many people are still talking about Tyler. They're talking about John. And what a shame that those guys we don't have around right now to help us when people struggle to communicate.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's why it's so beautiful what you're doing, is because even though they're not here physically, they're here spiritually. And you feel that in how you both speak, right? And I think another question that is also really important is that what you just said is, how are you guys doing? How are you personally taking care of yourselves? Because I know it's a lot, and me and Kim talk about this all the time. How are you personally feeling right now, and how are you able to take care of yourselves? Because you do so much for so many people.
We're sad. I mean, we're always sad. It's always will be there, and sometimes it rises to the surface and we have terrible days, but we take care of ourselves by talking, by giving each other space, by Mark started playing drums. I walk a lot. Well, he didn't start playing drums. He's been a drummer since he was a kid, but he hasn't played in years. So we set up his kit upstairs in the attic, and he drums a couple times a day. I think that helps him. For me, getting outside, just being with walking, nature, it helps. We're looking out at water right now. We're very close to a lake, and that helps. Water's calming. And really talking about Tyler, sharing stories like Mark mentioned, that helps keep him alive. And I've shared this before. I think I shared it with you too, that Kelly on his Twitter wallpaper has this quote, and it's so profound, and it says, they say you die twice, once when you take your last breath, and the second time when someone says your name for the last time. And he put that up there a couple years before Tyler passed, and it's still there. He's never taken it down. But he says, and we're right there with him, we're not going to let Tyler die twice. And so that's why we continue to share his story. And that helps us too, right? You know, it helps us talking about him, trying to help others, trying to change the way mental health is viewed, trying to eradicate the stigma. All of that helps us. And, you know, spending time with Kelly and Ryan, you know, I see Tyler in them. I see Tyler, I look at their hands, I see Tyler's hands. They all look a lot alike. And that just somehow Tyler's wrapped up in all of that.
We have to be careful because, or not careful. We have three boys, you know, and Tyler's gone. Ryan is here, Kelly is here, and Hilinski's Hope takes a lot of time. I'm not working anymore. We're running off the fumes of the successful run we had in that business. But you have to be careful because I don't love Tyler more now than I did then. You know, I don't love him more than either of the other two. But yet sometimes you feel like you're spending a lot more time in this area. And since it's a charity and this is not our business, you know, we're not making this, we're not creating a big play. It's not a business in the traditional sense where you make a profit, you make money and you see rewards that way. Our rewards come differently, right? From helping people. So you have to be careful when you have two other guys that need the same amount of love and attention as they did before, who, oh, by the way, lost their brother. You think other people thought he was great. These guys loved Tyler. He was the peacemaker, right? You got three in anything. He was the guy they would both go to settle things. And he always had the calm response, you know, and not calm, cool, but just drama wasn't a big part of what he was doing. And he didn't have a lot of time for that kind of stuff. And he was mature in that way. It's I don't know if John was the same way, but it does beg the question, you know, with all of these attributes that they could have such a positive impact on other people, how could they not see it in themselves and how could they not ask for help? And Kim and I talk about this all the time and we do it in our talks, you know, we don't say committed suicide. You know, people die, but you don't commit cancer. You don't commit ALS, you know. And there are assisted suicides and they're terminally ill and there's some choices made at different points. At 21, no. At 50, no. At 10, we had a young man, 10. You're sick. That's it. How you're sick, the details of it, bipolar, depressed, anxious, whatever, clinically, all of those things are really important to know because that's where you're going to fix some of the problems. But sick is sick. You know, this is not an ACL that we got 20 guys that can fix around the corner. This is complicated stuff. We don't understand it well enough. And so we got to keep talking about it so the really smart people can keep doing what they do so well and try so hard. And I think it's to think about Tyler and John in that way worries me a little bit because it does seem like there's an inordinate number of people that had those kind of personalities that were so well loved that aren't with us anymore. And there should be a way to stop that.
That's a great point that you make because that really resonates with me personally because just, you know, kind of fighting my own depression and my own mental health and knowing how John was and knowing how Tyler was I think one thing that you brought up is like, it's very frustrating, right? Because you think about it and it doesn't make sense because these are people that have helped so many other people and that really spent their lives helping other people and know how to connect at a deeper level than maybe anyone else you've ever met, right? But then it's that feeling deep down where, man, I feel inadequate. There's just something to say that doesn't feel good. And it's almost like this self-shame that we put on ourselves to say, God, like, you know, I might be helping people, but I didn't do enough. Or I have to do this again. Or I have to, you know, figure out how to get myself out of this hole, right? And I think that's one of the things that any student out there that might be listening or that might be in that same type of personality that's suffering is, I promise you, you know, we've been there, right? And it doesn't feel good, you know, and when you're in those holes, it doesn't feel good, but there are so many beautiful ways to find that light, to get out of this, to have those conversations and to be compassionate to yourself because, you know, 21 was the same age that I had my biggest kind of struggle myself too, which is ironic because that's, when everything happened with John, and that's when everything happened with Tyler. And it just is one of those things where sometimes it becomes so overwhelming, right? And we don't know how to get out of it because we place this unnecessary pressure on ourselves, right? And any student that might be feeling that, it's okay to talk, to be nice to yourself. You don't always have to be, talking to people. You can go and have, just almost meditate and put yourself in a position where you can feel healthy and feel that self-love for yourself. But it's so difficult, but there's so much hope, because when you're able to, I think, kind of harness that energy, right? And be able to get yourself, to say, okay, it's okay that I'm feeling like this. I don't have to be ashamed. This is how I'm feeling, that I feel like a loser, quote unquote, today, that I feel like I'm in my own head today. But you know what? I'm going to slowly get out of it. And maybe I'll get an email from someone, like I was telling you guys before, that lifts me up, or I'll get a phone call from someone that makes me feel, you know what? I do have an impact. I have to stop letting this illness talk to me like that, right? And I think that is something that is so powerful, because some of the greatest people on this earth, unfortunately, aren't with us because of this illness, right? And
John, we talked to the boys yesterday.
yeah.
There's what you're describing feels like too. There's so much, not just pressure, but we live in a capitalist society where if you're not doing something every day to forward your business or your personal space or your girlfriend or boyfriend or your family, you're one of many sons and daughters, and you're not the top one. All of this happens, right? So yesterday, I got to tell you this because you can look it up later, and I'll paraphrase it.
Yeah.
But William Buffett, William Buffett.
I don't know. Do I know the story?
What am I? Warren Buffett. God,
yeah,
sorry.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Okay, yeah. So you could argue Warren Buffett might be the most successful man in business, right? He's one of the top, either the top richest guy, or he's in that category. Wolf on Wall Street. He's done all kinds of amazing things. He's 90 years old. You know what he said yesterday? There's one word, the most important word in business. And he did a quick interview, the most important word. So you can imagine, guys are Googling through this, or seeing stuff, they're looking through it. And I was as a business guy and stuff, okay, what's this word? Compounding interest makes it one word or something. It wasn't. You know what it was? Love. So just what you were saying, if the most successful guy in capitalism thinks at 90 years old, after making $1 billion, that the most important word, not in his personal life, not in business, is love. And he gives examples like he always would. He's brilliant that way. But to me, that rocked a lot of things, because if you're worried that you're not moving up the ladder quick enough, or you're not doing the right thing, or you're not in the right job or industry, there's a guy that did everything. You can't really pick on him. No. And he thinks love at 90 years old is the most important word. So God bless him for saying that. I thought that was wonderful.
Oh my God. And that hits home so much, because that's something that so many people need to hear, is that love that pushes us forward, right? And it's that love that gets me out of those darkest holes, and I think is what allows me to do the work I do. Because when I am in that hole, I'll get that text from an 18-year-old student that's telling me something, and it's like, oh my God, that's why we do this. That is what that love that's how it really compounds, because it's so hard when you're suffering, right, to feel that love in yourself, even though the whole world might be seeing it. And it's like, remember that love in your personality is enough. You don't have to be a jerk or this guy that needs to talk about how I'm on Wall Street, I do this, I do that to be successful. We have to start judging our success by different things. When we judge our success by love, you'll start seeing yourself become happier. And like you said, what Warren Buffett said, I think you'll start seeing yourself even financially, and in the world, you'll start seeing yourself lift up. You'll become a better leader. You'll become a better football player. You'll become a better human and a better just advocate. And I mean, this is really hitting home for me. I can't thank you enough for bringing this up, because that could be one of the biggest answers that we all are looking for. And how do we get that across to students? How do we get that across to that person who can't love themselves right now, right? And it's that reminder that we have to start judging ourselves differently and success differently. Yeah. It's so powerful, because that is single-handedly, that's one of the most important things, honestly, I've ever heard in my life. what you just told me right there.
You caused me to think that, though, because as you were describing what we go through, and Kim and I talk about this all the time, if your brain's the thing that's giving you that's the thing that's sort of misfiring, that it's sick, it's not your knee. You would, to go fix an ACL tear, you don't say run to the top of a mountain. They go fix that. And so for us and for Tyler and for John to have something sort of go broken, haywire, and then at the same time expect that same brain to give you the ability to ask for help, it might be too much, right? And so we're not medical experts. I'm sure I know there's many smarter people on this particular topic, but it just makes sense to me still that you're asking the person that might be sick, and the thought process might be impacted, broken, derailed, whatever. And we know some of this is accurate. You're asking that person to then ask for help when they need it. So what I think is so important, what you're doing, John, is this: before it gets, at the diagnosis stage, hey, is this right? Does this seem like I should be? Right. We need to be able to talk about it the minute we think about it. By the way, this is not a hall pass to not work hard or to complain all the time or do any of that stuff. What it is to know the difference between when you're having thoughts of harming yourself or others, or you can't get out of bed for days in a row, etc. You got to know the difference between that and, being a little bit lazy and a little bit, I got to push myself, because I think those things have to coexist, right? But let's not put any kind of burden on the ones that are struggling to ask for help. They have to.
They have to. And that asking for help, like you said, is when you start attacking that early on, it allows to get those healthy habits. And now when I do spend those days, instead of it being a week where I'm suffering really bad, it turns into a day or even 5 hours or even 2 hours. And that is what changes lives. And that is why I think the work that we're all doing right now is so vital for students and so vital for young people and people of all ages. There's people, I'm 30 now. I turned 30. Well, I'm 30 and a half technically, but it's crazy. I feel like I just constantly get older every day, which is true, but but it's just like funny because it's the amount that I've learned from these type of conversations and just from talking to people ranging from students to adults to kids, right? That is the one constant, right? Where when you're able to start identifying that, okay, this is okay. I feel horrible today, but it's okay to feel horrible today. This is a part of what I'm dealing with, and I'm not going to make an excuse for feeling horrible. I'm just feeling this way. And you have that conversation, you slowly start feeling better. You slowly start building allies that work. And then, okay, now I'm going to get back on the field and throw my 10 passes that I need to throw, or I'm going to get into the weight room and lift weights. And for me, it allows me to say, okay, I might be feeling bad right now, but I'm going to go do 20 push-ups. I'm going to get my mind going. And now I feel better and I could be a better advocate for myself and for other people. And that, I think, is the ultimate message that we need to send to students, is that it is okay. We are here with you. We're not just saying we're here with you. We're actually here with you. And this is how we can lift other people that are in our shoes up and let them understand, wow, this can hopefully be a life-changing moment for you. And that is how Tyler, and that is how John, and that is how we all can collectively, I think, help the world. Because no, we're not mental health professionals, but we're professionals in our own right in terms of just experience. We have our own experiences. And when we combine those collective experiences, that can really change the world. I really do believe that. And I feel it even just from this conversation.
Oh, that's great.
Sure. Yeah.
Agree completely.
Man, you guys really lifted me up today.
Well,
that's great. I was going to say the same thing. Yeah, it was such a pleasure to talk to you. And you're doing okay, John. I know you've told some stories in here, and I don't mean to put you on the spot here, but this is what we're trying to accomplish, right? And by the way, if people can't ask, that's okay too, right? There's no stigma on that.
No.
So tell us, give us a true, 3-minute version of how you're doing.
Thank you for asking. That means a lot. Like you said, that's so important that, listen, we're all doing this to help each other, right? There's no right or wrong way to act. We're just trying to get those questions going. And thank you for asking, because I'm doing okay, right? And I think the best way to describe it is I'm doing a lot better right now than when I was before the interview. I was struggling a little bit with my own, my own depression a little bit, was gearing up really hard last night out of nowhere. And I was getting frustrated because, quite frankly, it was like, man, I'm doing so much. I'm trying, because I feel like I put too much pressure on myself to help others sometimes, right? I'm trying to help the Black community as much as I can right now, but I'm also trying to help as many people as I can while lifting other people up and making sure that I feel like I have 900 things going on, right?
Yeah.
So I've been trying a little bit too hard, I think, to help others, and sometimes that brings me down a bit. And that's why like a conversation like this helps me so much, because I'm just allowed to just talk and be ourselves and provide that hope that we can. And I will say, I'm really proud of myself, and I don't usually say that. And I'm starting to learn to say that, because that's something I could have never said that when I was Tyler's age, right? I could have never said I was proud of myself, even if I did the coolest thing in the world. I'm proud of myself for putting myself out there and being honest about how I'm feeling. And when I'm able to kind of say, yeah, I'm not fully comfortable right now, because everything that's going on is providing me to think more. And I'm learning a lot and I'm listening a lot, but I'm also being able to reflect now about my own mental health is something that I haven't been able to do all week. And that has given me so much hope and so much happiness now for this upcoming weekend, because I'm going to be seeing my friend Stefan, and we're going to a barbecue with a bunch of people from our high school football. I was the broadcaster, but it's all of us getting together again, and we're going to grill burgers at my buddy's house. And that's what it's all about. That's the hope that we need to. You can have those moments, right? And that's how you advocate for, I think, for mental wellness. So in 3 minutes, I'm doing a lot better than I was before. And I think that's the beauty of it. As I'm going to continue to get better, I'm going to continue to be honest, because I owe that to myself and to you and to Tyler and to John. That's how we make that change. So thank you so much for asking, because, there is some anxiety, there is some depression right now, but that's a part of it. And it's not overtaking me. It's just a part of me right now. That's right. Anytime it does start creeping up a little bit more, I'm going to make sure I do what I can to open up, because that's what we do. And
I want to share one thing with you, John. I'm not a big quote guy. I can't even pour Warren Buffett's name right. But there's one other one, just, twice in 10 years, I guess. But so the great John Wooden, the basketball coach at UCLA, I heard this in a way I hadn't heard it before. And I think it applies right now, which is your best is always good enough. Right?
Yeah.
Because everybody's best is different. And the only pressure you have is to try to do your best every day, and not the results are they take care of themselves. They're good some days, bad some other days. I just thought that was really important, because I hear it in your response on that, right? Is you're sort of calculating your effort and the results, which is just the polite thing to do. You're taking stock. You care about the things that you're doing, and yet you can forgive yourself for the things that are hard, that you think are maybe you're letting other people down. I really think that's, again, I just met you. This is not therapy, but it feels to me like that's a pretty strong, right? You can't put all this on your back. You got to go throw burgers with the guys and enjoy all that stuff without any guilt. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that is the exact point that needs to be shared more and more and more. We are all doing our best. Right. And sometimes it's hard when we suffer to realize that we are doing our best, and to accept that we are doing our best. And now me knowing and me having this conversation with you allows almost that reassurance. So, you know what? I am doing everything I can, and I can enjoy fully grilling those burgers. I can enjoy fully those moments with friends, because I deserve that, right? And the same way you deserve it, right? And another great quote, and I don't mean to, we're on fire right now. Quotes. A buddy of mine who is a little bit older than me, is a mentor of mine. He's gone through his own mental struggles, and he said something that hit me so hard. And I want to share it with you guys, because I think this is something that I hope can really help you, whenever you're going through it, because, the amount of work that you're doing obviously can be overwhelming, and the amount of people that you're helping is beyond measure right now. And he told me this one thing, and it's so simple. He said, John, well, his name is Joe. So the therapist said to him, Joe, you deserve to be happy, right? Yeah. And think about that, right? You authentically deserve to be happy. You weren't put on this earth to suffer, and you are such a good person. You're going to be doing what you can to help others. That's a part of you. That's a part of your nature. That's a part of a lot of people who struggle's nature. don't forget that moment that you deserve to be happy when those thoughts are swirling and when you're really struggling. Remember that, you don't have to have every answer correct. You don't have to say everything perfectly. You deserve to be happy, and that is going to continue to help other people, right? And that is going to inspire those around you. And, whenever you're feeling that, I hope the whole family understands that, you deserve to be happy. And you've put, honestly, one of the biggest, like I have an external and an internal smile right now going on just from these conversations, because, it means a lot to me to have these conversations. And I just hope you do know that you deserve that.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you.
wonderful. Appreciate that.
We appreciate you, and I appreciate our texts and our talks. So always know that you can reach out to me anytime, John.
Thank you so much. And I'll say before I end, is there anything else that either you want to say, you want to add, any other message that you want to put out there just before, because I know you guys got a busy day going on, and I'm going to be grilling some burgers soon. I'm excited. But anything else that you want to add about anything?
I just want you to know how much we appreciate what you're doing and how you're helping others. And I'm sad that we met each other this way, but I'm very grateful that I have your friendship.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
That means the world to me, because it's the same thing. I'm just so glad I've been able to get to know you, and now to get to know you, Mark, and to get and to be able to support you all in any way that I can, any way our organization can. I think this conversation is going to hopefully help a lot of people and open up a lot of hearts, because there's, like you said, there's nothing more important than authenticity in this world. And I authentically just want to do anything I can to help you the same way you helped me. So thank you.
Well,
Anytime.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us, John.
It's a pleasure. And on that note, I'll stop the recording.